we have become really focused on productivity more than we are focused on human beings and how we should live together and how we should take care of each other. And perhaps this is something that needs to change. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Legally Blind. I am shooting at the farm again, literally from the middle of this tree canopy. This is a flamboyant tree, Dilonix regia, one of my favorite species of tree ever, and it has wrapped itself around the terrace of our house, top floor, and I love this tree. So I thought I would film from here today. First of all, this channel has finally crossed the 1,000 subscriber mark. So for that, I would like to thank everyone who has subscribed, and I would like to thank my patrons who have stuck with me through the last few months. I have not made a video in a while. I have not been very well, but I'm starting to get better, so hopefully the videos will start coming again now. Other than this video, I am working on another video that I've already shot. I went back to Dialogue in the Dark and filmed some interviews with sighted people who work with blind children and blind adults. And I'm looking forward to sharing with you their thoughts and their experience at Dialogue in the Dark. But this video is going to be about eye fatigue. What is eye fatigue? How does it relate to people who have retinal conditions? How does it affect me personally? And what can you do to reduce eye fatigue for yourself if you have a retinal condition, or even if you don't? And also, we will comment, as always, on some social responsibility stuff. There's a lot of ambient noise around, birds, a bit of construction, dogs, cattle, cars. I hope that you can still hear me well. So what is eye fatigue? There are already lots of really great videos on YouTube about eye fatigue and how to avoid it, how to reduce it. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that, but I will summarize it a little bit. So eye fatigue is when the muscles of the eye, the muscles that focus the lens and the muscles that move your iris around, get tired. And usually, at least in modern times, this happens when we spend a lot of time focusing on something that is very close to our faces, which we do a lot. Computers, phones, books. So most of the time we get eye fatigue by spending hours and hours and hours reading or writing, working, and so on. It happens because the muscles of the eye have to hold the focus and the position of the eye in one spot for a very long time. So over time, this causes strain, which can lead to things like headaches, blurred vision, pain in the muscles of the eye. I experience this sometimes when I read for a very long time. Then when I'm done, if I try to move my eye around, I feel this pain around my eye. Some may not experience that. Some people might just experience a headache, blurred vision, stinging in the eye. Because also, when we are using these screens for a long time, we blink less, so the eye gets more dry more quickly, and we experience this stinging sensation. So, what does this have to do with people who have retinal conditions, people who are visually impaired or partially blind, legally blind, because of problems in the retina? Well, eye fatigue is going to be compounded on top of whatever other symptoms we already have to deal with. What does that mean, or what might it look like? In a previous video, one of my most watched videos, I have created a simulation that shows people how the world looks like to me to the best of my ability. Of course, it's not an exact replica of what the world looks like to me, but to the best of my ability, using some tricks on the video editor, I was able to recreate, for the most part, close enough what the world looks like to me so that you guys can see it. And here, I'm going to try and show you what reading feels like to me. Because reading is one of the most difficult things for me to do with my condition. I do not have central vision, and the central part of your field of view is the part of the field of view that has the most detail and allows you to read most easily. So when you don't have that and you have to rely on peripheral vision to read, it means that you have to move that central part of your field of view away from the letters and read with the edges or the peripheries of your eyes. So you can go ahead and try to do that. I can imagine that it might be very difficult for a sighted person to recreate that for themselves, because it's must be very natural to just focus with the part that focuses best. But you can try to do it. You can try to move your eye a little bit away from the line that you're trying to read, and read it, and see how that feels like to you. But here I'm going to show you what reading looks like to me. So what I have not shown in the previous video is that on top of the visual distortions and the noise that is in the whole field of view, and apart from the blind spot in the center, there's actually also usually double vision, because the thing that I'm reading is very close to my face. So I cannot focus with both eyes on something that is so close to me. So I cannot use binocular vision, basically, or binocular focus to read. So there's double vision, there is the blurriness, there is the noise, the blind spot, and on top of that, I'm trying to fix my eye in this one position. Also, what ends up happening usually is, as I relax, this blind spot will move without me meaning to move it. Sometimes I just relax and it ends up covering part of the text that I'm trying to read, and then I have to remember and push it away. So that's also using the muscles of the eye, the muscles that move the iris, to wake up and move that thing away again, which is what you're seeing here. Is my Kindle at the biggest possible font on one of the books. And even with the font as big as it is, I still have to hold it pretty close to my face, and that creates double vision. And my brain has already learned to ignore one of these images, usually the one that is created by my right eye. I usually read only with my left eye, and my brain ignores whatever my right eye is bringing in, and tries to follow the text that way. So it might actually look more or feel more confusing to you seeing it on the screen than it actually feels to me, because my brain has already learned to ignore one of the images. So it's not as overwhelming for me as someone who's so used to it as it might be for you looking at it right now. However, you can still probably understand and imagine that it is pretty exhausting to read that way. People who are visually impaired get tired of reading much faster than a sighted person would. Even a fully sighted person can experience really bad eye fatigue after a long day of work or a long week of work. But someone who is visually impaired might experience this much sooner than someone who is not. Even with the use of magnifiers, with all the visual aids that you've got, you still might be experiencing fatigue much faster than someone else. Other symptoms of eye fatigue might include seeing tails. I'm going to try to create that right here with my hand. Okay, so I see these long tails even without being fatigued. Usually not during the day, not in bright light, but in low light situations, whether it's day or night, whether I'm tired or not. Any motion has this tail behind it. Most people will not experience that unless they have really bad eye fatigue or they're on psychedelics or something. I can have that in any kind of low light situation. So before we get into the social aspects of this, let's summarize briefly some of the things that you can do to reduce your eye strain or your eye fatigue, regardless of whether you are visually impaired or not. Again, there are already good videos about this on YouTube, so I'm just going to go through it quickly and specifically highlight the things that will really help you if you are visually impaired. First of all, and this should go without saying, use all the visual aids that you need. Don't try to strain yourself even more than you need to by not using the right level of magnification, by, just for some reason neglecting to use your magnifier or trying to focus on very small text. Just use what you need and ask for the accommodations that you need. Other than that, there are some general rules for everyone to follow. There's a rule called the 20-20-20 rule, which means to stop every 20 minutes of work to focus on something that is 20 feet away from you for 20 seconds. 20-20-20. This gives the eye a break and apparently is supposed to reduce your eye fatigue. Another thing that really helps me in particular is to work on improving the contrast of the screen that you're working with as much as you can. Not just by adjusting the settings of your screen, but also by making sure that you don't have any unwanted reflections on your screen. So if there's a window open behind you or some light behind you that is reflecting on the screen, it actually affects the contrast and makes it more difficult to see. There are also some eye exercises that you can do that help to stretch out these muscles and move them around a bit so that if they've been fixing the eye in one spot for a long time, they get to move around a bit and stretch and do different things, and that reduces the strain as well. Now we come to the tricky part of the video, which is the social aspects. When it comes to eye fatigue or eye strain, any social aspects are probably going to have to do with work than anything else. If you are an employer who has a visually impaired employee, what can you do or what should you do to help them out? First of all, we have to understand that visually impaired people are just as capable as anyone else of doing their jobs and doing them well. However, they might require some accommodation. So, if you are an employer who has a visually impaired employee, you should try to provide these accommodations as much as you can. They might need magnifiers, they might need software on their computers that helps them read. They might need a little more time than other employees to finish certain tasks. As a society that unfortunately operates under capitalism, we have become really focused on productivity more than we are focused on human beings and how we should live together and how we should take care of each other. And perhaps this is something that needs to change. We can't talk about inclusivity and how we want to include everyone with disabilities and everyone who is a minority without actually doing anything about it. Including people with disabilities means that we have to accommodate them. And it is actually not as difficult as it may seem. It's just that greed sometimes and this obsession with profit and productivity is not allowing us really to do that. It's not just disabled people who are suffering from things like eye strain and exhaustion and too much work. Everyone is. But it is just that able bodied people are somehow able to put up with it, whereas disabled people simply do not have the option even to put up with it. So it's not really good for anybody, but it's us who end up having to bring it up. I would love to know from you guys what you think about this. Do you believe that it is possible to fully integrate and include people with disabilities in the workplace without sacrificing productivity or competence or profit or whatever it is that employers might care about? Do you think, as I do, that as society is becoming more and more aware of things like mental health, disability, inclusivity, all of that social justice stuff, should our priority not be everybody's quality of life as opposed to financial gains or expanding corporations or putting more money in the pockets of people who are already rich? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let's have discussions. And that's pretty much it for this video today. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks again to my patrons for sticking with me through the past few months and years. If you would like to support me, if you are new to this channel and would like to support me, check out the Patreon link below at patreon.com/legally blind. You can contribute a one-time contribution or a monthly contribution, whatever you like. And please, if you like the video, like it. If you are new to the channel, subscribe, share the video with anyone who might find it useful, and I will see you again very soon.